Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Lant and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, episode 262. Now, we are joined by some very special guests today, and I think it is the first time, I was thinking back, that we've actually got a couple on the podcast together. We have had couples before, but not together, because I think, Pete, we've had like Mark Rifkind and Tracy Rifkind from America. We also had... Are you all right, Pete?
Yeah, that just dropped out there. It's back again.
Okay. Do you want me to start again?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I don't believe it. We've just been talking for ages, and literally when you started, it stopped.
Okay.
Just start again.
Okay, right, okay, good. Start again. Take two. Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, episode 262. We are joined by some very special guests today. And I was thinking actually back, and I think this is the first time we've actually had a couple on the podcast together. We have had couples on before. We've had Mark Rifkind and Tracy Rifkind from California. And we've also had Ben Causa and Vicky Causa, who are now based out in Ireland, both on, but they've always been on separately. So this is really, really nice to have these guests on today, who I will introduce you to in a minute. I'll first of all just touch base with Mr. Peter Lant down in Somerset in Bath. How are you doing, Pete?
I'm doing very well. I think this is great because this is what we talk about all the time, about just chatting to people and connections and all that sort of stuff. And then going to different events. So we went to the Dinny Stones gathering with Stevie Shanks has been on the podcast. John Gibbs being on the podcast. We're getting Steve Gardner on, who was the compare, whatever
Compare, MC.
MC. That sounds better.
Yeah,
compare sounds a bit formal for a stone lifting meet.
Or the compare sounds a bit Phoenix Nights.
Yeah, he was the turn.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's like we're talking about all these things and just going to these events, and then you end up. I mean, we just got chatting because these guys have got 3 flathead retrievers. And I was like, oh, lovely dogs, hello. And then we got chatting. And then you find out that like a tiny little bit about their story. And in like together and individual stories as well. And then we've been batting and balling on email and stuff. And then all of a sudden you're like, this is going to be an amazing episode. So just a chance meeting, a stone gathering in a field. You know, it's brilliant. We love it.
Excellent. And if you are listening on the day of release, which I know many of you do, it is the 5th of September today. Okay, so we're the 5th of September today. And like Pete just mentioned, we are joined today by Janette and Roger Dunridge, who are currently joining us from Aberdeenshire in Scotland. How are you doing, guys?
We're great, thank you.
Yeah, hello.
Excellent. It's like Pete said, it's amazing, really. We were both up at the gathering, which was right at the very start. I think it was the first weekend in August, and we met up there. And just to give a little bit of context, so Janette and Roger are a married couple, both in their 60s. I believe Janette is 61 and Roger is 65, and they have both got really interesting and different kind of health and fitness kind of stories and things that they take part in. And I said just before we started recording, this episode following on from David Amaland last week, where we were talking about, you know, what it takes to live to be 100 and kind of all lifestyle factors and things like that. And now we've got these two guys on, both in their 60s and doing some absolutely incredible things. So yeah, like I say, first time we've had a couple on together. How are we going to do this? We're going to go back and forth, and we're going to ask. I mean, maybe if each of you, to begin with, if Jeanette, you can just kind of give us kind of, I suppose, like the cliff notes on, you know, on your current athletic endeavors, and then Roger can as well, and then we'll kind of go into the background behind it, because there's some really interesting backstories here as well. If that's okay, do you want to kick us off, Jeanette?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, I suppose I'll just take it from, I was going to hit the big 6-0 a couple of years ago. And I think it's, for some reason, whenever there's a 0 at the end of an age, you tend to have this thought of, what have I accomplished, and how much have I got left, and that sort of thing. And I've never had really much of a bucket list. I just go and do stuff. But I thought, what would be in my bucket list? And basically, I've been traveling around a little bit with my daughter, who does bodybuilding, and she does the bikini bodybuilding, not the sort of big, terribly muscular, but definitely sort of sculpting your body. And I was registering with her for her last show, and she was getting her number, and the chap behind the desk said, how about you? And I laughed, and I said, no, I'm just here to watch. And he said, well, why? And that sort of reoccurred to me when I was doing my bucket list, and I thought, right, well, that sounds a crazy idea. Maybe do that. So yeah, I got myself an online coach, and sort of started all the preparations for that, and then entered the Granite City Bodybuilding Classic, which up here is rather nice. It doesn't belong to any of the major federations, but it's a sort of standalone show, and it's a really friendly show. And I couldn't think of a better place to start, to be honest, because it's really welcoming and appreciating all ages, all abilities and everything. And so I took place in that, and I got a trophy. So just long and short, I thought this year I'll have another go, and I got another couple of medals. And so yeah, that's been my main thing for the last few years.
And within that, what category is it that you compete in?
It's Bikini Masters.
And
So-
what age range is that?
Well, it varies. For the Granite City, it was 45 plus, I think, for the category I was in. And this year, I entered the 45 plus and the 50 plus.
Right. I was going to say, because the 45, so basically you're entering against people who are like, what's that, 16, 17 years younger than you are, which is amazing. I love that. I think, and you're getting a podium place as well. So I think that's amazing.
Absolutely. But, you know, it's not just about that trophy. It's the sort of the process of what you learn in the process of getting that. You know, it sounds a bit corny. It's not the winning, it's the taking part, but it really is in something like that. And I think you can apply that to everything, really. As long as you sort of grow as a person and you learn lots, you're always going to be a winner, aren't you?
We had do you remember Chris's surname, who was on the podcast? He was a fitness competitor.
Your mate Chris, who you
my
brought
mate
on.
Chris, and I can't remember his surname.
I can't remember his
surname's
Who's
gone out
been
of
on
my...
twice that I can't remember either.
He's been on twice. It's his surname. Because what I was going to say was, because he reached 50, and then he started but he reached 50 and was very unfit and very overweight, and then he got into training, and he went over to America to like this Miami Beach kind of one that he did, and he's been competing. I'm just scrolling back as I talk at the same time, but then, like you say, but now I think he is nearer 70, and he often goes into these kind of over 50s ones, and he's sometimes competing against people who are 15, 20 years younger than him, you know. So
there's a much bigger bodybuilding scene in the States than there is here. I mean, if anything, today it'd be great to inspire some sort of more mature people who are interested in that sort of thing, and think perhaps that they can't do it, to really inspire others to go for it, because it's quite lonely sometimes on stage. I mean, you know, sometimes there's only 2-3 other people. So yeah, let's sort of get the oldies on the stage.
What did you do? Because like you're saying, like to inspire people to do it.
Yeah.
What did you do anything before that? Like anything, were you fit and healthy already anyway? And then it was kind of like, oh, I'll do a bit of bikini kind of modeling, bodybuilding type stuff. Or was it like from a space like Chris, whose surname we can't remember?
Chris Zaremba.
Zaremba, that was it. That's why we can't remember. Good Scrabble name. But he was out. Yeah, remember Chris Zaremba. We'll remember.
Chris Zaremba, yeah.
But he was overweight and out of shape. He was eating loads, wasn't he? He said like was he pre-diabetic and all that? I think he said. I can't really remember. So were you like that, or were you already like kind of fit and healthy? And then this was just it's a hard work, but kind of the stepping stone to that.
I was always the tall, gangly kid, to be honest. I had exactly the opposite of that I was sort of weedy and lanky and nothing to me. And so, it's not always about losing weight. Sometimes people struggle to actually sort of become bigger and stronger. So for me, that was a big thing. We can perhaps sort of go into Roger's story, but the reason that I got into the gym was because of Roger, really, because he was doing some recovery for his from back surgery. But we started going to the gym, and I went straight over to the treadmill and the cross trainer, because that's what we do, isn't it? Because we don't really know what that other equipment is. It looks like torture equipment, and you don't even know which way to sit on half of it, do you, when you first go into and so I sort of was on the cross trainer and just looking across and thought, well, that looks just much more interesting what those people are doing. And so I had a really good sort of trainer within the gym who said, well, come and have a try, and got the barbells out. And I sort of really researched stuff a lot, and I was looking into the benefits of strength training for women 10 years ago. I mean, it's all a buzzword now, isn't it? But 10 years ago, very few women did stuff like that. And I could see, there were lists of the benefits, that it was really worthwhile thing to do. So started deadlifting, and I've bought my little book that was my inspiration, which is
Mark Rippetoe. Spartan Strength.
Mark Rippetoe is like, this was my Bible, because he says strength training makes you harder to kill, and I love that, because it's simple. But I just so that's what I first started to do, was train for strength. And I did. The great thing about barbell training is you can start with a broomstick, if you like, something really light, and then you just add to it, and it gets heavier, and you can physically see your progress so well. You get a buzz from it. It really does grab you. This
is excellent, and I think that's a good segue into, because I know that's you mentioned in I think it was the article that I read in the newspaper that you sent us, where you started. So I suppose, Roger, for yourself now, do you want to kind of do the same as we've just had from Jeanette? Give us a bit of a background in yourself, and also maybe how your kind of lives intersected, because I know that you
that's another whole show.
I was going to say, because
we could do that.
I was going to say, because I know you're not a couple that's been together since your 20s. You've kind of met.
Oh, well, that's another whole show.
Oh, that's another. Okay, right. Well, Roger, maybe you can start telling us a bit about yourself, and like you say, Roger, you've had well, you haven't said yet. You haven't said anything yet, but you will do it. But you've had, for your background, we know, because I've read, it's from a military and then a police background. But maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, Roger, if that's okay.
Oh, I get permission to speak. Marvelous.
It's the military background. Permission to speak, sir. Yep. Off you go.
Yeah, I mean, I left school at 18 and I joined the Royal Marine Commandos. And I had a commission with the Royal Marines, but that didn't quite work out, in that I got the Green Beret, and that was no problem at all. But then came the officer training, and I was a disaster zone. So we parted company. A year or two later, not knowing what to do with myself, I joined the Parachute Regiment. Had a wonderful 3 years with them. That was great fun. And then moved on to the Metropolitan Police, where I had a great career, thoroughly enjoyed myself. Did 27 or so years with the Met Police. I ended up working at a Scotland Yard as a Detective Chief Inspector, which was very long hours, very high pressure, wedded to the job, and eventually came out in 2010. As I mentioned, I had a few problems there, some injuries, and things went sideways. Bring it up to date, come 2019, I I got to the point of sorting myself out or being sorted out, one of the two, whichever way you like to look at it. And it was time for a challenge, time to see if I'd still got it or not. Having been a runner most of my life, I wanted to see if I could still do it. And so I was looking for a challenge, and I read about the Everest Marathon, and I thought, well, that sounds interesting. So I've always fancied going to base camp and seeing the Himalayas. And what's this about a marathon? So I did some research on it, and it transpires it's a marathon run from Everest Base Camp down to Namche Bazaar, which is more or less 26 miles away, give or take a bit, and a few circuits around some lonely hills. It's sort of downhill, but very uphill in bits. And I thought, well, that sounds like an interesting challenge to take on. I mean, go large or go home. So I'd done street marathons, I'd done fell running, I'd done mountain marathons, but this sounded like something really different. So I thought I'd give that one a go. But then, of course, COVID intervened and everything gets cancelled. And it was cancelled the following year. And eventually, come 2023, I kind of lost interest in it. But Jeanette then came up with the idea that she wanted to challenge. And so if she was going to have a challenge, I was going to have a challenge. And her challenge was going to be the bodybuilding. So basically, I needed to find a challenge. And I've been talking about this Everest Marathon for about 3 years. So either sign up for it or forget about it. So I signed up for it that evening. In the following year, 2024, went out and took part in it. And it was one of the most amazing things I've ever done. Trip of a lifetime. Wonderful scenery, amazing people, and just an incredible experience. And since then, what have we done since then? I've done a couple of hill races around here. There's a Run Balmoral festival that's held every year at Balmoral Castle. I took part in that this year, and surprisingly, I actually won the over 65s, or the over 60s at the grand age of 65. So I beat some youngsters. And that was meant to be a training run, basically a training run out for the Edinburgh Marathon at the end of May. But I get a bit competitive and I couldn't help myself, and I ended up pushing it and winning my own category. And then I did the Edinburgh Marathon at the end of May, and here we are now.
That's fantastic, and because the Everest Marathon it's the highest marathon in the world, isn't it? I think they say, and you had to go out there for a long time. I think beforehand there was a period of kind of acclimatization and altitude acclimatization and things. Was there? It's not like you just turn up one day and do it the next day. It's kind of quite an extended trip, isn't it?
Well, that's one of the things that makes the Everest Marathon unique. It's actually getting to the start line is quite difficult. First of all, you have to fly to Kathmandu. Then from Kathmandu, you fly to Luklau. And when you get to Luklau, there aren't any roads. So it's all walking from there. So you then have a 12-day trek up to base camp. And that's not just because it takes 12 days to get there. You have to acclimatize to get there as well. You're starting off at around about 9,000 feet. You've got to get up to 17,500 feet. You have to acclimatize because the oxygen levels are something like 50% of what they are at sea level. So it takes a while to get up there and your body to get used to the altitude. So that's the first challenge is actually getting to the start line. Challenge number 2 is from the start, you're running at 17,500 feet. When I say running, if you're Nepalese, you're running. If you're Western, you're walking. Because it's just virtually impossible unless you've been there for several months to acclimatize. And the third aspect of the whole thing is the terrain, because it's not a nice footpath or a nice trail. It's basically a rocky moonscape for the first part of it. A lot of it is just very, very difficult, not just to run on, but to walk on. So that makes the whole thing even more difficult. So yes, it is the highest marathon in the world, and it's probably one of the hardest because of the terrain, the difficulty in getting there, and just the time it takes.
But that's funny because I mean, I've after we were with you guys in wherever it was, Potok,
yeah.
we went to Aviemore afterwards and did some mountains and stuff, and it was like even mountains in Scotland are kind of like, you know, there's boulder hills and the footpath. You like you go walking around here, you walk through some woods and there's tree roots and stuff like that, right? And there might be the odd like slippery-ish slope or whatever, which a lot of people find challenging. But then you go into like some smaller mountains and you've got boulder hills and stuff like that, which are challenging just to walk up. And that's not really at altitude. That's at like 3,000 feet. So then you're talking about doing it at 17,000 feet with 50% oxygen and trying to run it and everything. And after 12 days of hiking to get there, not doing it for 3 hours on a specific day. So it's like, that's just trying to put it for the listener in perspective of how difficult that actually is.
Well, one of the things they do say is that you take your average marathon time and then you double it, and that'll probably be your finishing time on the Everest. And for me, that was about right. My finishing time is 7 hours 54. My Edinburgh Marathon this year was 3 hours 55. So that's just about right. So
Excellent. Yeah.
that's a fair way of looking at it.
Excellent. And you kind of, as you were talking about your story there, I think you said you came out of the police in 2010. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Around there. So I know you kind of, you had like a back injury, because we mentioned this, or Jeanette mentioned this, and this is how you kind of got into strength training, and you got Jeanette in strength training. Just tell us what was the kind of back injury that you had, and how did you sustain that, and how serious was that when you kind of came out from the police?
Well, it actually goes back a lot further than that. When I was 21, I was with the parachute regiment, and we were doing a jump, and the jump went a bit wrong. When you come out of the aircraft, you're meant to come out alternate sides. So number 1 comes out to the right, number 2 out to the left, number 3 out to the right, number 4 out to the left. And the dispatchers basically made a mistake, and 2 of us came out at the same time, one on the left, one on the right, and we collided behind the aircraft at 800 feet. That ended up with this other chap tangled up in my parachute. His parachute collapsed. That left the pair of us on half of mine, and I was on the bottom. And so we whistled into the ground and had a fairly spectacular collision with the ground. That resulted in me breaking my back.
Oh, Christ. Okay.
And sort of getting stretchered off the drop zone. But you're 21, you're bulletproof, you're a paratrooper, so what? And within weeks, I was back doing paratrooper things, and just none the wiser that I'd hurt myself, really. But over the course of the years, I didn't realise the damage it had done, which was to my discs, and they'd been quite badly damaged, and over the years they just deteriorated. So I got to the age of 49 and got to the point where I could barely sit still, barely stand up, barely walk, because the discs were so badly damaged. And so I went to have surgery to repair it, and it was found they were beyond repair. So there was nothing they could do. And having always been a runner, and running was the way I dealt with all sorts of pressure and all the my way of life, I couldn't run, and I sort of spiraled into depression, and got thoroughly hacked off of the entire world. I went to see another consultant who suggested the way to deal with this was to get the vertebrae to fuse, so that there wasn't this friction between the vertebrae. And he showed me some exercises that could be done to strengthen the abdominal muscles, or your abs, so that the muscles around your waist actually supported the spine rather than the other way around. And so I spent 3 years doing ab exercises and core exercises to strengthen everything up, and it actually worked. It kept everything nice and stable, and eventually my back fused, and the 5 missing discs didn't really matter anymore. But that then brought us on to doing some weight training in the gym to try and get everything going, and doing some cardio in the gym to try and get things going, and sort of keep everything ticking over. And I guess that's when we started going to a gym, and Jeanette picked up some weights and decided that was the thing for her.
So people will realise you're up in Aberdeenshire, but you're not Scottish. So how did you end up there? When did that happen? Well, first of all, when did you kind of meet? When did you get together, the 2 of you?
Well, I guess.
Jeanette, do you want to tell the story, or does Roger want to tell the story?
if I'm allowed to talk.
Yeah, you talk, Jeanette. Now it's your turn. There you go.
We should have it like a little timer.
How do I tell this? Roger was probably my first love when I was 17, and he was 20, I think. And I think he wasn't probably as keen as I was at the time, because he went and joined the army and disappeared, and that sort of fizzled out. But you know, we didn't exactly finish. You just sort of left things.
Wasn't there.
He just wasn't there. Yeah. So yeah, we met up again in our 40s, late 40s, yeah. And yeah, that was. Go on.
Well,
you have a turn.
No, well, yeah, sort of got together again in our late 40s, early 50s, when both our marriages were sort of were over, and realised that, well, perhaps we could make a go of this after all, and perhaps
he saw sense, you know. That was enough time to realise that.
So 30 years later, it took him, and then he saw sense. Okay.
Yeah,
That's brilliant.
so yeah, we met up, and yeah, when we started living together, we got our first flat coated retriever, didn't we? And so we've always had dogs, and I think that, you know, that's actually a really important part of our life together is the dogs, because as we said to you, we've been together 15 years now, and we've walked every day, twice a day for those 15 years, haven't we?
Yeah.
And it sounds, you know, it doesn't sound much, but you were asking sort of what you put down, your sort of fitness, and what's your sort of health secret. And I think that's a big part of it, that we've been consistently walking, and that is what brought us up here, just to sort of tie it all together, because it got sort of quite crowded. We were in Norfolk, and it got quite crowded in Norfolk in COVID. A lot of people sort of seemed to appear in the area, and we just felt we'd exhausted all the sort of walks and things around there. And Roger'd been up in the police in Scotland for a few years, hadn't you?
Yeah.
And I said, well, looks like you can get a hell of a lot of property up in Scotland for your money, and started doing what I think a lot of people do, which is sort of look on Rightmove and, wow, look at that. And so we had a couple of holidays up here, brought the dogs, didn't we? And had some brilliant, I mean, the funniest thing is that Roger said, you'll hate the weather. So we came up for a holiday, and they were having a heat wave, and it was 30 degrees C. And I said, I love the weather, you know. And then we sort of had another holiday, and blow me, they had another heat wave. But they have fast weather here anyway, and I love the bad weather and the good weather, so it's great. But yeah, the opportunities to get out and about with no crowds, and there's the right to roam, nothing's fenced off, nothing's saying, you know, no dogs here, dogs on leads, and all of that. It's just great, isn't it? And
yeah, so I suppose the thing being that our activity level went up further, because we weren't just walking on the flat, we were now walking further because we could walk further. There was more opportunity to walk further. Yeah. The terrain was slightly more challenging in that it wasn't just a gentle footpath somewhere, it was rocky slopes, it was hills, and there was hills to go up and down. There's nothing flat here. So whereas before in Norfolk we were walking for perhaps, I don't know, 2.5 hours a day, it was mainly flat. Here it's 2.5 hours a day, and there's always hills involved. So we're working harder as we get older.
I'm loving this. It's fantastic.
And how close? Because obviously we met you in Potarch, but how far away from there do you live?
I think we're about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh wow! And how did you know about that event? Is that something that you've been to before, or because that's something, because I said to people when I came back down, because I'm in Essex, so just you've obviously got Norfolk, Suffolk, Essex, so I'm kind of down around where you were from. But when I came down, I said, "Oh, this is an amazing thing. It's just almost like on a little village green." Yeah. And then you've got you've got like the Stoltmans there, and you've got this amazing thing going on. But there's like maybe 400 people there watching, and it's just, you can just wander around, and it's just, like on this little village green. So how did you know about that, or have you been? Was that the first time you'd been, or?
No, we've been for the last 3 years, and I think it's only 4 or 5 years they've been doing it, isn't it?
I think that was the 9th year. That was the 9th year they did. But I think the first few years was just like, you know, a handful of people. It wasn't kind of obviously what it is now. Yeah.
I'm sure that I probably found out about it because I just follow all things strength and strong men and strong women, all of that. And I'm sure that I probably came across it initially on one of the social media sites. And we, like you say, it's just amazing because there's no entry fee. And the very first year, I had my photograph taken with the Stoltmans. I looked like this small. And it just made me laugh because the previous year, I think I'd been to the Arnold's fitness thing in Birmingham, and there were people queuing up and paying £100 to have, you know, 5 minutes with the Stoltmans or their favourite strong man and whatever. And there they are just walking around, and they're such nice people. And the whole fraternity of strong men, you must have got the vibe from that day. It's just incredible. And yeah,
we've had half of them on the podcast, and you know, and like you're talking about strong women and stuff. We've had like Lucy Underdown on, and Becca Roberts,
Donna Moore, Chloe, everyone.
Chloe Brennan, who's one of Steve Gardner's clients, I suppose, or he's one of his strength athletes. So yeah, like it's just amazing speaking to these people and seeing them, and then the fact that they just put a show on for people, like you say, for free. And Stevie does it, like is in charge of it all, and everyone, and his dad Jack was there as well, and you know, it's just amazing.
Yeah, because I mean, Jack was there. He's 90 now, and Jan Todd is in her 70s now. You know, and she was there, and no, it was brilliant. Yeah. So that's just 20 minutes away from where you live now. So that, I mean, how does that? I mean, having worked in the Met, Roger, for you said I think you were in the police for 25 odd years or something, and a lot of that probably down in the Met Police. We actually had someone Vicky, who now she was in the Met Police in like counter-terrorism stuff. She was in for about 20 years. She moved up to the Lake District, didn't she?
Kendall.
In Kendall, and she said total change of life. She does, like, you know, cycling there and outdoor, and you know, outdoor swimming and all this kind of thing in the Lake District. And I mean, for you, Roger, going from the Met Police and then obviously the problems that you had after coming out from the police with, you know, your injury and depression and all that, how are you finding living in Scotland? Do you love it up there?
It's absolutely wonderful. The space, the quiet, the peace. I used to love going to the Lake District when I was living down that way, but of course it was a 5 or 6 hour trip to get to some mountains. Here I can walk out the door and in 5 minutes I'm in the Cairngorm National Park. So it's absolutely wonderful. I love the slow pace of life. I love the clean air, the peace. The people have got time for you. You walk into the village and you know everybody. You stop and chat, and you'll quite often be going to get the newspaper from the shop, and you'll just bump into someone and just stop there and have a chat. Now, I don't understand half of what they're saying. There's some fairly broad accents around here, but you sort of learn to sort of nod and say yes and I in just the right places, and it's very friendly.
It's I mean, I was only there for like a weekend or a long weekend, so I ended up, my flight was delayed coming back. I was there for an extra couple of days, but because that day after the thing there was this storm, wasn't there? So all the flights were cancelled. So I didn't go back. I was meant to go back on the Monday, ended up going back on the Wednesday. But I loved it up there. I mean, I have to say, and being just in Potarch and, you know, just wandering onto the bridge there with all the history, and then you just got that lovely little cafe there, and and then I stayed in Banchory. And then on the day I had the Tuesday that I went into Aberdeen, into the city for the day, and it was just, I loved it there. It was so I can see the appeal. But although you did go from Norfolk, so Norfolk's actually quite a nice quiet place from down south, but you say not nearly as remote or quiet as where you are now, I suppose. Can we touch on these this kind of, I think there was 5 or 6 points that you mentioned it, Jeanette, but you're kind of, this was what was really nice. You called them the secrets of staying fit and healthy, and I love that you're both in your 60s and obviously incredibly active now. And you mentioned the walking with the dogs twice a day, up in Scotland, which is tough work, tough walking. But yeah, what are your kind of, what do you attribute your health and fitness to, these kind of secrets to staying fit and healthy?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm one for doing research and stuff, and I actually studied to become a personal trainer when I got into the strength training. So I have the knowledge to sort of know what works and what doesn't. But it's not as complicated as the fitness industry would make out. I've got a new phrase, and it's follow the money. And basically, a lot of people are promoting stuff, the new trends, all, for their own sort of pocket, really. But it's not that complicated. And so in my view, consistency is the thing. So, we walk every day, but find something that you enjoy and do it every day. Fitness wise, eating all the diets in the world, all the different fads, but I always say everything in moderation. Don't cut out giant swathes of your diet unless you have to for sort of intolerances and things. But have your cake, but then have a sensible meal at the same day. Have a burger and chips, but then have a salad, to balance it out. Just everything in moderation. One thing I learned with bodybuilding was protein. Prioritize protein over everything. And I think that will become, well, it is sort of becoming the new sort of buzzword, isn't it?
It's kind of a bit of a mantra, isn't it? I mean, I've been saying that for years as well. The prioritized protein, and the first thing you think about on your plate every meal is where's the protein, and build your meal around that. So, what do you, as a kind of as a female in your early 60s who is a competitive bodybuilder, how much protein do you try to have per day? Do you have an amount that you aim for in terms of amount per pound or per kilo of your body weight?
I could tell you, I try and get 120 grams of protein at least, but that doesn't mean anything to most people. So forget that. A palm full of something with protein in it at every meal or every snack. So a palm full of chicken, fish, steak, any lean meat, red meat, fine. Red meat's got a bad reputation in some people's minds, but as long as it's lean red meat, it's brilliant. There is such a thing as a healthy burger. You can have that. Whey powder, because I'm still actually very small as bodybuilders go, and that was actually one of the hardest things for me to learn, was to eat sufficient to build muscle. But even for the layman who doesn't want to be a bodybuilder, we still need muscle. And there's a lot of research now that people as they age need more protein to even just maintain their muscle. So just get that protein in and sort of prioritize that. I think the other thing I said was about your circadian rhythm, wasn't it? And just going to bed and getting up, trying to go to bed and get up at the same time each day, because you have something called a circadian rhythm, and that's sort of what keeps you healthy and alert, I think. And obviously get outdoors in nature as much as you can, because the fresh air, you've got the vitamin D, haven't you? And just it clears the mind as well, because there's a lot obviously now about mental health and mental well-being, isn't there? And exercise does all that. But so does gardening. I love gardening, and you get out and you find you forget about troubles and worries, don't you? So it's just finding your thing. But
it's funny what you mentioned there about just getting outside and stuff as well. and the mental health side of it and everything. Because I mean, I do a lot of walking. I go walking the dog, but he goes to a daycare on a Tuesday, so I have a day off because otherwise, you know, I love going out and walking and stuff like that, but you need a day off.
Yeah.
So he goes to a daycare. So but Tuesday I was waiting for a delivery as well, and I had to be in for it to sign for it.
Yeah.
But I also had something to do in the evening. So this thing hadn't been delivered. I'd picked him up and I'd gone out to do this thing in the evening. And they delivered it while I was out. So then they had to deliver it the next day, which was yesterday. So I was in waiting for it yesterday as well. And I was climbing the walls because that was 2 days that I couldn't go out.
Yeah.
And I was doing things and stuff, but I was kind of like, I need to go out and go for a walk. And even just after 2 days, I was getting a bit moody and what have you.
Yeah, see, that's the process, isn't it? That's falling in love with the process. So you're not thinking you're walking to keep fit. You're walking because it's part of what you do.
But when I think about that, it took me 2 days or like a day and a half to start getting a bit antsy about it. What, like, you know, and if someone's done that for a year, 2 years, 20 years, they go out and they drive everywhere and all that. I mean, and then wonder why they feel a bit down or feel depressed or feel whatever. Yeah. There you go. It's as simple as that. And I think that's when you said that in your email and what you've just said, everything you've just said there, it all sounds too simple because the internet will tell you that it's harder than that because then they'll charge you for it.
And almost we're primed to want complicated now, aren't we? You know, with my bodybuilding, I did the same split of exercises for 1 year. Now it got boring and I kept thinking I want to change, but my coach said no, you keep going, you keep doing the boring stuff. And I ate the same meals every day. The same thing. We have the same thing for breakfast every day. Some of the most boring things are good for you, basically.
It's to say we both get coached by a guy called Paul McElroy, and we do the same things a lot. Well, you've been doing the same 3 exercises.
I've been doing presses, pull-ups, and pistols for like 4 years.
Yeah.
But you're really good at it.
But it works, you know, and you get stronger, you know, and if you want to be good at running, you run, you know, it's like you have to, you know. I want to ask as well, because before we started recording, we started recording in your home gym. I don't know if it's in the garage gym or where you are at home. Do you both train there, or do you go to a kind of another kind of commercial gym as well? Do you both train it at home?
Well, we are at the moment. I mean, there are a couple of commercial gyms here which we don't really use very much. Not because money or anything like that. It's one is convenience. We've got it set up how we want it, and it's just sort of easier where we are. I mean, Jeanette likes to go to the commercial gym every now and again just for a change of scenery, use some different machines, meet some different people, just have a different outlook. Me, I just tend to use the commercial gym really just for the treadmills in the winter when it's too nasty to get out running.
Yeah, because we haven't actually got any cardio equipment.
Yeah, but that's
His cardio is just lifting weights faster.
But yeah, so presumably, yeah. So for you, Roger, a lot of what you do. I mean, you do strength train, obviously. I mean, how many times a week, on an average week, Roger? When you're obviously a keen, again, you're a competitive runner, and Jeanette is a competitive bodybuilder. How many times a week do you run, Roger, at the moment, and how many times a week do you do some kind of strength training?
Well, it's changed dramatically in the last 2 or 3 months, in that I've realized that I have to do an awful lot more strength training. I wasn't doing any. I was going out running, doing all my running, and very happy with that. I had a bit of a mishap in May, and I managed to fall in the river whilst walking the dogs, and had a bit of a sore knee, but didn't really worry about it. Ran the Edinburgh Marathon, knee was still a bit sore, got sorer, and then I discovered I dislocated it. And so I've been out of running for the last couple of months, and one of the big things that's come out of that is that I need to do more strength training to, first of all, strengthen up the knees, or the legs as a whole, to hold everything together. And so I've got into going to the gym perhaps 2 or 3 times a week now to do strength training. And once I get back to doing my proper running training, I'll stick with that. So I'll be doing perhaps no more than 3 days a week running, and 3 days a week strength training. I used to run more than that, but I found that one thing about getting older is it takes longer to recover. I used to recover fairly quickly. Now it takes longer, so I've just had to cut down the running a little bit, and be a bit more sensible and give myself a chance to recover. And also from what Jeanette's told me from that she's learned, because I always listen to my wife, I always do, always have done. Nose is growing at this stage. Is that the recovery is where the good stuff happens. So you go and work hard, you work everything out, and then the recovery is where it all gets stronger and fitter. So recovery has become the important bit now as well. So in answer to your question, it's probably once I get back to running everything properly, it'll be 3 days a week running, 3 days a week in the gym doing strength training.
I mean, that's fantastic for someone who's 65 years old. And like you said, still running. I think you said you ran the Edinburgh Marathon. Was it 3 hours 53 or something like that?
Yeah, it's 3:55.
3:55. Yeah. Incredible. Fantastic. And I mean this, and how often do you train at the moment, Jeanette, for your strength training? Because I know you're currently, I think, training for the granite competition this year, aren't you? Is that right?
Well, that's up in the air because that's not until March. I was invited to some British finals in October, but I think I'm going to sort of step back, and it takes quite a toll on your body, the actual competing side of bodybuilding, when you have to diet down to about 12-14% body fat, and it's not something you want to do that regularly, although some people can manage it. But certainly as you get older, what Roger says is true, that you do need to give yourself recovery time. So at the moment I'm just training 3 or 4 times a week. What he said about sort of getting enough rest is really important, and that should have been on my list actually, about making sure you get good sleep. And
well, I think you did with that circadian rhythm and stuff.
That's where the magic happens.
Yeah.
But having your own gym is great, because you can do things a lot faster. You don't have to wait for equipment, to become available. And also you can make as much noise as you like. I'll leave that to your imagination.
I live in a basement flat in like an old 5-story house. So the people upstairs hear a lot of swearing for coming down. But there's a great message in all of that as well, though, because like what Roger was saying there was you hurt your knee running, so you started strength training. Like a lot of people would hurt their knee running and go, well, I can't run anymore, so do nothing. Like and we've talked about this before, about like becoming the character that it becomes part of your character, what you're doing and the purpose behind it and all of that. We talked to David about that, didn't in the first podcast we did with him, about having a purpose for it. And then once you've got a purpose, you're going to do it anyway. So you hurt your knee, but you started strength training because you weren't just going to sit around and do nothing. And I think that's brilliant. And then I was going to say something about what Jeanette said, but I can't remember what it was. Oh no, that's it. But when you're on stage, that's like a snapshot.
Yeah.
And people see that, not necessarily you, but they see that on Instagram or whatever, and you see all these people on Instagram who are ripped and look amazing and everything. And Dan John spoke about this. He said there's one person who he knows who's in the fitness industry, and they keep putting photos up of how ripped they are and how great they look, but they're from one photo shoot they had about 5 years ago. And it's like, because they don't look like that all the time. And I'm really glad you said that. It's like, it's hard work, and you look like that, you're on stage, and then you recover from that, and you'll probably put a bit of weight and a bit of body fat back on in that, but so what? Because that's healthy, right? So
oh yeah, absolutely.
That's the thing. Yeah,
it's called the reverse. After a show, it takes a good 3 to 6 months to reverse out of that situation. You don't just. A lot of people sort of think you do the show and then you eat 6 donuts and life is normal again. It's not. It really isn't. You reverse out, like you prepare to go into it. It takes a good 3 to 6 months of you can't just bombard your body with food again, because you've depleted, and so you have to gradually increase the food. And sort of get back to where you were, and then you can start to grow some more muscle. You know, it's that bodybuilders are for sure, they are athletes, and you know, they're dedicated, they've got discipline, focus, you know. And when you sort of say about sort of people taking photographs and showing their muscle and everything, why not, to be honest? Because they earned that, you know, they worked hard for that. And yeah, it's sort of about delayed gratification, really. You know, you sort of have that discipline, and then when you've done your competition and you can have a few of those things again, boy, do they taste nice or feel nice, you know. And sometimes I think in life we've got everything, haven't we? We can have everything we want, more or less, and just to sort of be in that state where you have to say no to things, like perhaps sort of social occasions or you know, food, whatever it is. It's sort of good for you. It's empowering to know you can do that. You've got that discipline.
I love what you just said there, because I love cheesecake, right? And I haven't had cheesecake for ages.
Yeah.
But every time I have it, I love it. I say years. I had a piece of cheesecake when I was on holiday up there somewhere. Can't even remember where it was, but might be in Aviemore. But I don't have it that often. But if I had it every day or every week, I wouldn't. It would get a bit boring. You know what I mean? So I like that. It's like you do all of that, and then you come out of it, and then you have the things that you weren't having, and the taste better.
Yeah.
I just think that's brilliant, because a lot of people as well who get overweight and emotional eating and stuff like that, they'll just feel their faces, and then they don't even know what they've had. They can't remember, you know. And that's like, and that's not saying that's like, you know, you shouldn't do that and stuff like that. It's not calling people out for it. It's just saying that's what happens. You know, so trying to get back to a state of being able to enjoy food is brilliant.
Yeah, excellent. So what we'll do, we'll start to wrap up now, guys. But what I just want to find out what's next for you. You know, because you've been doing, you know, we you know, you're obviously, like we said, 65 and 61 now. And Roger, what's next for you? You did the, you know, you're obviously rehabbing this knee injury at the moment and things. But have you got anything, maybe not booked, but you know, in your kind of mind that you're maybe focusing on in the next sort of 12 months?
Yeah, I've got an idea. There's a mountain race I've seen out in Italy, because I don't like. I think doing the Edinburgh Marathon reminded me why I don't really like street marathons too much. The scenery's pretty dull to start with. I love mountains, and there's too many people, which is why I moved up here in the first place. But there's I think it's at the end of June next year, there's the Mont Blanc Running Festival, where they have 30, 50 and 100k mountain races. And I quite fancy the 30k mountain race there. That's probably about my distance, the 30k, 18 miles. And as a tryout for a proper mountain race, that would be good fun. The 50 is probably a bit far for first time out. So I'd like to try that next year, see how that goes. And then see where that leads.
Excellent, because probably by the time you do, if you're going to do maybe the 30 next year and then the 50, you know, we're kind of, you know, you're moving up towards being 70 then, aren't you? You know, like doing these kind of 50k mountain races and things, which is, it's amazing, isn't it? I think that's I think it was in one of what you wrote, one of you wrote that you know, some people get into their 60s and stuff, and they don't really set themselves challenging things to do anymore. It's almost like, you know, like I think one of you said, like it's almost like a day with the grandchildren is like kind of hard work, and that's kind of tiring.
I wonder who said that. Did you see it?
Yeah. Who was it who said that? I didn't see. Was that Jeanette? Was it who said that?
Jeanette just
knitting.
Yeah, but you know, it's true, isn't it? Because you know, you're both obviously still setting these goals, you know, which is amazing. So that's great. So you've got these mountain races out in Italy, which is fantastic. Roger, how about you, Jeanette? You mentioned, what's next for you, do you think?
I'd never put bodybuilding sort of another masters out of the equation. You can pretty much sort of pick and choose. There are so many of the shows going on. If you're willing to travel, you can do that. So I may do that, but I'm going to give myself some time to grow some more muscle, hopefully. But I'm sort of talking about Rip earlier. I met this really fantastic lady at the Dinny Stones gathering, who had a physique very similar to me. I couldn't believe how many sort of less large people were lifting this year. Normally, that you know, I've always thought weight moves weight, basically, but it gave me a new outlook. Sort of seeing her, she was inspirational, and only weighed 10 kilos more than me, and lifted the Dinny Stones. She lifted them. So I'd quite like to get.
Who was that? Was that Jenny Todd, or was that? It was Jenny Todd, was it? Yeah. Because obviously the other two ladies were very densely muscled, weren't they? You know,
they're more traditionally what I would have thought would be. You know, I put that out of my mind. Not that I'm going to go and lift the Dinny Stones, although how amazing would that be? But
there was
to strength training for strength rather than for hypertrophy, which is the large muscles, which is a different way of training. But it really inspired me because that's how I started. And you know, I can deadlift well, but I'm not so good at pushing and pressing. But yeah, I'd like to do that. But also I'm doing at the moment something called Ruck Race League, which I don't know if you know about rucking, where you have weight in a backpack and you have various challenges. And so I'm in the middle of doing that at the moment. I just love a challenge, and that's an online challenge. A guy in America sort of started that, and we've got a local ruck club, and so you sort of put your.
Is that to do with Go Ruck or Go Ruck? Go Ruck, I think is the organisation in America, the main one.
This is a sort of independent one to that, I think. But just anything like that. I just love something going on where it pushes me, basically. And so there's that. I did something called Extron, which is a similar sort of thing with weights and cardio stuff. And I think if you just hold yourself accountable for something, then that sort of pushes you to do your best, doesn't it?
And I think having a target to aim for sort of justifies all the training. It's very easy to go out running or weight training every day, doing the same thing day after day after day. And okay, you'll keep yourself fit and healthy, but you won't see any progression. And I can't see any reason why, even at 65 or 61, we can't progress and get better. There's no reason why we can't.
Well, we have done. I mean, I'm definitely fitter now than I was in my 20s, for sure. There's no doubt about it.
So having sort of targets out there and things to aim for, that gives you the extra motivation to go out and do the training and enjoy it more, because there's a purpose at the end of it.
Excellent. And I know, and that's great as well to hear you say, Jeanette, that, you know, at 61, you want to build more muscle still, which is because so many people think that, oh, you know, they hear this thing, you know, oh, after 30, you know, you start losing muscle and all the rest of it, and sarcopenia and all this stuff. But you can, if you're committed, and like you say, you're strength training 3 to 4 days a week, and you're eating the protein to support that, and you're sleeping adequately, and you're doing all those things, there's no reason why you can't still improve, you know, in your 40s, 50s, 60s and beyond. So no, that's a really, really important message, I think, for people to hear. That's great.
Yeah, use it or lose it.
Brilliant.
You're basically reading off everything we say.
It's great. So I was going to say, if people do want to kind of follow you guys and see what you're doing and stuff, training wise and things, I know you're both on Instagram. Is that a good place for people to go just to have a look at the kind of things that you're doing?
Yeah, if they really want to,
So we've got it's at Roger Dunridge, on Instagram, because I saw you got some great photos on there, obviously, like the one that's behind you on the wall there, you know, from your Everest. So it's at Roger Dunridge. Is it DUNRIDGE, isn't it? Right. And then at Mama Barbell.
Mama
Barbell, MAMA Barbell. For Jeanette, both on Instagram. And do you? Well, I know you are a qualified trainer as well, Jeanette. Do you train clients yourself? Do you have clients that you look after and you train, or is that just something you did for your own knowledge and development?
I did that for my own knowledge and development. I did have a few years training people with Parkinson's disease, which was very rewarding. But no, now I just sort of train myself, but I'll always be happy to give advice to anyone. And yeah, I've had sort of people in the village I've taken to the gym and sort of shown them the ropes, and then they're good enough to go. But yeah, I don't do it professionally anymore. I just concentrate on myself now.
No, that's great.
That was interesting. That we haven't spoke about that, but that was interesting because you said, I can't remember if it was in your email or in the article, but it was like I trained people with Parkinson's and it helped them.
Yes.
Like it helped slow the process.
Yeah,
so
if anyone out there knows anyone with Parkinson's or has Parkinson's, please do get in touch, because their exercise is medicine for people with Parkinson's disease, and it will delay their symptoms. There's one particular chap who I spent a lot of time with, and he got a good 10 years of life back from exercising. So, it's really important, and not something that all doctors push, that, they just don't. So, yeah.
I think more are now, but because there's a guy who comes, like the walking group that I do, there's a guy who comes along to that and his cholesterol's dropped a bit and stuff like that. And his doctor had asked him what he was doing. And then his doctor asked him if he strength trained, and he said no. And he's like, well, I'd like you to start doing that if you can. So that was interesting. I like that he'd been given that advice, which was good.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And like you said, that was your first ever podcast, and it's the first.
So nervous.
No, you're both great, and it was great. Like I say, first time we've had a couple on together as well, and it's good because you're doing two very different kind of modalities of competitive exercise, if you like. But it's great because what we always say on here is it's finding something that and David Ameland was a big one for this, finding something that resonates with you and that you enjoy, and and then you can do it every day, like you say, and it'll make your life better. So thank you so much. So just again, if you want to follow the guys here, it's at Roger Dunridge on Instagram and at Mama Barbell on Instagram as well. And I'm sure we might catch up with you again in the future, I think, because this is good. I think you're going to be doing more in the next few years, and I'd love to hear about your mountain marathons out in Italy and see where your strength training takes you next, Jeanette, as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
it's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, brilliant. That was lovely. So thank you, everybody, for watching or listening. If you're watching or listening on a platform that allows you to leave a review, please do so. And please do like, share and subscribe to us across all the various platforms. And if you do want to share this one, I think this is really, really special for two people, both in their 60s, but operating at a really high level of competition in the kind of endurance sector, and then also bodybuilding and strength training as well. I think that is a really, really positive message, especially following on, like I said at the start, from the episode last week with David Ameland. So yeah, thank you, everybody. Please do also leave a review on Apple Podcasts. That's where we're trying to get our reviews in. Thank you very, very much, Jeanette and Roger.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Peter.
Brilliant. And thank you, Mr. Peter Land. He's giving us a wave.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. We will see you next week for episode 263. Until then, bye-bye.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Land and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com, or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Odyssey.